Live?
We're going live. All right.
I think we're live.
No, we are live. We really do need to restore the bumper music to our show. Those who have noticed the format shift. Yes, we ended up publishing to YouTube, so we decided we would try as an experiment, going straight
Yeah.
to YouTube. Because from a production standpoint, I'm Doug Splinter, live from my house in scenic Edina, Minnesota. Mr. Kidda.
Super scenic. I am Todd Kidd, and since we're being specific with our suburbs, I am in St. Charles, Missouri, St. Louis.
Well, there you
Otherwise.
go. All right, so it is April the 10th. I think I'm up first today. I
Yeah.
got what I thought some interesting stats, and then we're gonna do fun for a little bit. We're not gonna do security or anything else. We're gonna go back to controls and security because it got to end strong on lockdown and security and all the rest of that stuff. What do you got going on this week? Lots.
I'm all over the board. I've got some AI builder stuff. I've got some power apps, some mixed reality. So that's something we don't talk about too much.
No. And then, all right, well, let's just hit it. So there was an interesting document released yesterday by Jared Spataro, who kind of owns M365. And if you scroll down, there was a lot of interesting stats, and they're animated about what people are doing and the volume and number of minutes of meetings. Did you see these stats at all?
Oh, yeah.
Like it rolls up to like 2.8 billion. They talked about kind of the key findings, the percentage of people who are doing video meetings, how people are using Blur and other things, and what people are doing on top of it, work schedule insights and everything else. And I thought it was interesting trend line is technology use over time as people got their work from home orders as it's crazy. So if you're a person who likes data, and of course you and I do, and you want to understand kind of the macro trends of technology and some of the investments that are being made around it, I thought the interesting thing was I don't have a lot of announcements specifically from the engineering teams. They're mostly helping customers get stuff deployed right now and working on critical features that are relevant to the mass scale and challenges we've seen. Some things had already been announced. They're just trying to fast track forward. Custom backgrounds rolled. A lot of Microsoft people have had that for a while, like under the internal preview programs.
Yep.
Other things are coming on top of it, but custom backgrounds went out there on top of it. If you've not had the joy, you can read how to upload your own custom ones. I think the hacks are still out there if it's not on the release, but it will be coming soon. We've all had a lot of amusement around custom backgrounds inside of Microsoft. The other one was we announced last year, they had announced that active noise suppression. They did that video, that construction site with all the background. So that they're trying to push hard as well because they understand barking dogs and everything else. It was kind of it was a neat feature before, and some of these things that we were like, oh, we're working on these. These have some engineering background. People are like, why do you care about that? Well, now everyone's like, where's that feature?
Now it's yes.
Yeah. It's interesting what Maslow's hierarchy becomes when your environment shifts, right? So there's that. That's interesting. All right. So there's some stats on top of that. I want to go into Project Cortex. For those who do not remember, it's the knowledge network inside of M365, and some details were put out. This was like, there's going to be this new managed metadata service, super MMS instance, and this new page libraries and these dynamic content pages. Well, I don't know if you'd seen this, but they now have office hours and they're rolling out an entire topic series of public-facing sessions around ramping yourself for Cortex.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And look what they have. They have the overview, which is the recaps already posted on that one. April 8th had the Q&A where you can just gotta go open, do that. Obviously, that's 2 days ago, so I'd imagine the recap will post soon. And then the 22nd, they have what do you need to do to get ready? And then the 6th is the experiences, May 6th, the knowledge experiences. The 20th is that MMS thing. And we're going to do a little MMS today in a minute, talk about that. And then in June, it's going to be the admin and configuration on top of it. And then that closes out the series as far as readiness, which should give you at least some rough timing as to when this sucker is going to be, because they said H1 of 2020 and June closes down H1. So we'll probably be close to public previews or that kind of stuff at that point. So if you are a Project Cortex, a person who's interested in Project Cortex, or even if you don't know what it is, it seems like an awesome way to spend a little time and get into it. So there you go. So the Project Cortex overview series, I stumbled across it. I know it was posted, but it wasn't really advocated. And I was like, well, I'm going to attend these because I'm fascinated by what we're doing and how we're approaching this thing.
That's very awesome. No, I
Yeah.
hadn't heard that. That one catches me by surprise a little bit. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and the transparency behind this, like normally these are like we have these TAP programs inside of Microsoft, the early adapter, the technology adapter programs. You get your insider club card and the secret meetings, MVPs are in it. And you're like, oh, I'm on the outside because I'm busy. I want to be involved, but I don't really need to participate. Like maybe I don't have time to participate in a pilot or a beta or test features and scenarios like an
Right.
insider. But I do want to get my organization ready for when this thing goes. Well, I have not seen us work out loud like this in this big of a thing before, so I'm candidly quite impressed
That's very
with
cool.
this work. All right, so
And I've
cool.
seen these things over on the dev side a lot, right? Especially for open source projects, where
Yeah,
it makes sense, right? If you're
yeah,
like working out in the open in GitHub, you're gonna have office hours and those kinds of things. But that's pretty unique. That's pretty cool.
yeah. I like it. So the other one is there is the modernizing the SharePoint managed metadata service. Okay, so this is a post from Chris McNulty, who's going through managing taxonomies in the SharePoint Admin Center and kind of going through the MMS, right? Content type gallery, all the rest of that kind of stuff. I pull this up as something that I think people should be paying a little more careful attention to simply because of the related elements of Project Cortex. You can see there's an upcoming session in May on, hey, there's all this new stuff coming to the MMS. Well, when was the last time you really looked into it? And so what they said was, as we prepare for the GA of Project Cortex later in 2020, in April 2020, we'll start to release the following target release: a modern terms management system in SharePoint Admin Center, content type gallery on top of it. So start to get ready, because the components, the foundational components of Cortex, the backend MMS, taxonomies. So if you haven't dusted off your content management taxonomy, and started thinking about some of those knowledge constructs, it is time to do that. And let's be honest, this is forward looking. It's fun. It's a value to your organization to have that level of knowledge and curation and everything else.
Yep.
So I always like when you're stuck in the fires of fighting something like what we're doing right now with all this different modern work. Like last week, we were very tactical, right? I covered the call quality dashboard, that visual analytic of what happened when someone sent everyone home, and what was the call quality differential, Power BI dashboards, and building those reports. So I'm trying to blend it between the forward-looking future stuff that we can give people and the execution right now. And this one seems like a fun project to really kind of, I don't know, grab your caffeinated beverage of choice, put on your favorite music, and dig into metadata and see where is your current state? What does it look like? How is it being used? And sort of document your state as to how you're approaching your term store and your taxonomy. And if you haven't gone through this stuff before, it's time for some skill set. Those who have been wondering what's happening to all of my SharePoint skills, well, you're about to get all that dusted off.
I've been wondering what's happening to your SharePoint skills.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, right. Well, if you saw me stumble around the admin center a few weeks ago, I was sharing a desktop. I was trying to find my way to a setting in live in front of. Oh, that's no problem. I'll just change that. It was. I have a few friends of mine who I know would have mocked me incessantly. I've helped with SharePoint over the year. You don't even know where the admin. Well, I haven't clicked on them in a while. I know what they do. I just can't find them all the time. All right. So that was on top of it. So those are my two fun ones for today.
Cool.
Managed metadata service in the Project Cortex series. Let's get that one going. The next one is comes out of the security guidance we're issuing around COVID times, because everybody's going home and they're on these different devices and everything else. And so the Azure Security Center team released this post that we'll have it up in our show notes. Okay, first, it's going to call it multi-factor authentication. If you know me, if you know anything, you know how much I want you to activate conditional access rules and all the rest of the stuff. However, this one takes a different lens on it. It goes and looks at your Azure estate from a alignment and perspective, and it talks about JIT VM access, and then also vulnerability remediation across your infrastructure estate. Now, it's going to give you a few lens perspective across different elements. And so normally I would tell people, oh, you should be in Secure Score and all those things, and you still should. So my homework assignment is go check Azure Security Center for its recommendations and your Secure Score, and make sure you're up to date on guidance. And if you have not seen John Troll's recommendation document that he cooperated with for the true security baseline reports that came out for how to properly secure the environment, you should be going through those things. So now is the time to make sure that that all of your holes, as much as possible, are plugged. Vulnerability, remediation, the rest of the stuff. There's even an article that says, did you see about the SMB ghost attack? that's out there right now, the SMB vulnerability. It got patched in 2 days, but there are already worms, targets, and exploits that are going after SMB Ghost.
Okay.
Azure ATP now detects that. That's one I'm not covering here, but just as an example of looking at your recommendations and making sure, even in times of where you're fighting other kinds of fires, that you're going through those solid motions, or you're going to have a whole different kind of fire to fight.
Right.
All right, last one up for me is the IT Pro. You and I were having an exchange back and forth, and you'd sent me an article, and we were debating whether it was preachy or not, right? Which was one of the security articles, and I don't mind confessing that to a group of people. Like, sometimes you're like, but I think we've all seen the consequences of poor security and anonymous joins over the last few weeks. I don't care if you're in K-12 education. I don't care what technology platform you're using. If you don't have the settings turned on, now if the platform doesn't have the settings, shame on them. If they have it and you haven't turned it on, shame on you. So
Right.
what we thought we would do is skate through and say, hey, Teams, they did a post on meeting options, roles in a meetings, the consent, and all the rest of the stuff. I did pop that up over, and I hopped into the Teams admin center in the technology center's environment. And I did want to just give a quick harbor tour as to the places I think people need to pay the most attention to. And that would be the org-wide settings around external and guest access, as far as like, what do you have turned on? What are you allowing people to do as guest access coming in? What can they do? So you should run through your guest protocols and see how that happens. External access, whether it's on. And then underneath your meetings, there are the meetings policies. And I think these are particularly critical for you to make some intelligent decisions around what you want to have happen from a meeting policy standpoint. So are you going to allow people to meet? You're going to allow Outlook add-ins? What are you going to allow for content and the participants and guests? Let anonymous people start a meeting. Automatically admit people, everyone in your organization, or some other choice on top of it. So this is the panel you should go double check that you love all the settings that are in. I'm not escalated, so I'm in view only mode right now, right? Because I didn't bother to MFA escalate, so I can't change any of these things, which is good on top of it. But you should run through your participant and guest settings and the other ones and make sure you're comfortable with the kind of experiences you've enabled for guests and remote people in on top of it. As a reminder, all you're doing is going into the Office 365. You're going to your favorite portal at office.com, clicking on the admin center, going into the Teams admin center, and then you're just drilling down into the meeting policies, guest access, messaging policies, and all the rest of them, and running through it. The blog post I had on the other side we'll go ahead and run through what those normal things are as well, so you can kind of have all this stuff curated and ready to go.
Lovely. Okay.
So aside from the fact that I went out and checked, and the M365 user group has gone virtual for the meeting through registration on April 13th. They are still having a virtual meeting. So if you are a community org and you want us to highlight what you're doing remotely, please let us know that as well. So that's it for me. The remote work trends, Project Cortex, and the MMS in order as your tactical step one in order to get ready for it. Make sure you check the Azure Security Center and Secure Score and all your Teams meetings and policies so you are not that. And I think that's it for me. And I'm going to turn it, Mr. Kidda, over to you.
Awesome. So I just want to make sure, is my screen up?
It will be in about 2 seconds, and it's up now.
Awesome. So this is a little different for us. I don't have a confidence monitor like I usually do, so I'm just kind of flying blind and hoping I'm still alive. This is great.
You are.
All right. I know. I trust the technology. So here's a little bit of that mixed reality I was referring to. So this was an announcement a week and a half ago that we didn't get to talk about last week. I just thought this was really slick, the execution here. So this is showing the mixed reality capabilities we're bringing into Power Apps.
That's crazy. That's just crazy.
And it's just like super, super easy. I'm not going to click play on this YouTube video, but it shows a really quick example of you just dropping this 3D model onto your canvas and then switching over to MR mode, where you're able to, pin the thing in space, and walk around and look at it, and it's just so awesome.
Can I tell one brief story on that? My daughter's like art oriented, right? And so we have the Windows mixed reality headsets, but she will pop into 3D Paint, like grab constructs, and then go in and use one of the 3D Paint studios with the little things in order to manipulate these things. And then she can export them back out and then put them in HoloLens before. And now you could just take those same things, grab those 3D paint things, twist them from the community, toss them into this application, and you'd be off to the races. It's pretty crazy. Paint 3D could be your quick get your object in there thing, right? So,
and the other thing, like, this is just all super real world stuff, taking measurements, validate fit before you actually order something, right? Communicate ideas. I like this one too, just kind of showing, because not everybody has 3D assets. 3D assets are not just a dime a dozen just laying around, depending on what you're doing. But being able to actually communicate ideas with the two-dimensional model is just like a JPEG, right? So kind of this end cap idea here, I thought this was pretty slick, and we have some early adopters that are using this as well. So I think this one's pretty slick.
That's fun. That's just fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I think really that this ties into some of the things that we're talking about up here with AI Builder in a second. This one was pretty slick. I don't know if you saw this one, but
I did.
We've done similar integration with Power BI and Power Apps, and now that kind of integration is coming with Teams, where there's actually context, right? So if you have a Power App embedded in a team as a tab using the Power Apps app, it actually will get past context from Teams. So it'll know like what team you're in, which could tell you what customer this is about, which could drive the functionality of your application. So if you have an application that's going to be embedded in many different teams, maybe you're in a retail scenario and you're going to have a Power App embedded per store. Well, it should probably know what store it's living in when you launch that application. So this is pretty nice, and it kind of goes through and shows you which context variables are getting passed to your Power App. So this was pretty cool, and it also calls out here that we've seen an explosion, just like with Teams, of adoption of Power Apps. So people are getting to work and solving problems with Power Apps in this time right now. So this is kind of exciting to see.
Nice.
So AI Builder. So first, a bunch of AI Builder things just went GA last week. So what are those things? Form processing, object detection. I'll walk through a couple of the key capabilities here. So if you haven't looked at form processing, this is pretty amazing. And it's been exciting to see form processing from a kind of citizen developer perspective, but also in the Azure side, mature over the past year. Moving from, I would say pretty basic forms at launch of the preview to very advanced capabilities that are much more difficult for a computer to understand. But we've enhanced the size of the PDFs that you can use for training for this. This ties back to the mixed reality thing where under object detection, we now allow you to start with a domain. So a lot of people are doing retail, right, with these kinds of things, object detection. So we have some pre-trained models that have been trained with retail to enhance the performance of your models. So you can start from a retail scenario and get better performance kind of just out of the gate.
Yeah, because it already understands the concept of shelves and linear planes, and those kind of things are built into the model.
Totally. And then key phrase extraction, sentiment analysis, all of this is GA and kind of available now. So check that out. I thought this one was great. We've talked in the past about building custom models in AI Builder. And one of the most challenging things with doing auto ML or automatic machine learning is really helping the user make intelligent decisions around the performance of their models. Because I'd say there's a lot of, when you hear about data scientists and their skills and what they're doing that provides value, there's a lot of things they do. But I would say one of the most valuable things they do is actually make a judgment on the models that they build, whether it's quote unquote good or quote unquote bad. And even deciding like what good and bad means is a sometimes nuanced and important decision that can make or break a project.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do here is make the performance of a model that has been built with AI Builder just easier to understand and easier for you to make choices on whether this is a good model or not, because not all data will result in a good usable model that will solve your business needs. So this is really good. I'd say this is a hard problem, and I think we're getting really good at it as far as helping users make intelligent decisions and using really amazing technology to solve their problems. So check this out. That's pretty cool. This one is just near and dear to my heart. As a developer, I think time zones, if you're dealing with time zones, is one of the hardest things around.
I cannot tell you the number of times I've screwed this up over the year.
Because here's the thing, it doesn't make sense. Time zones aren't easy because they don't. It's just a cluster,
Well,
and
there's a geopolitical dimension to the labeling of them. In addition to the like, it's not easy.
and you have places like Arizona, Indiana that kind of like mix and match. Like, one county can decide for their own, and it's just time zones are freaking hard. So in the cloud, we make it easy. Generally on the back end, just it's like everything's just in UTC. That kind of just makes it easy. But in any event, we publish some guidance around leveraging how to use time zones, how to think about time zones in the common data service. So if you're using the common data service as an integration point between different applications, different business apps, your analytics, this is really good guidance that you should consider, because if nothing else, it's interesting reading, because time zones, if you haven't worked with time zones, it's harder than you think. At the surface, you're like, well, how hard could time zones be? I went from east to west and now 2 hours earlier. How difficult is this?
Yeah.
So this walks through even some common problems, right? With prescriptive guidance. So this is just a guidance thing.
Just do everything in UTC, never render it as anything else, and make the end user do the work. That's what I've
Honestly,
learned.
like, I feel like if everybody switched to UTC in the metric system, like, life would be maybe a little easier. I don't know.
I know. Why does it really matter? I'll just say that it's all about sunrise and sunset UTC, right? It doesn't matter anything else. So
while we're at it, let's just get rid of daylight savings time, man.
Yeah, that would be great too, right?
The worst. I don't care. All right, I don't care who's mad at me. So file attachments and approval flows. This one's really nice, because a lot of times when you're doing flows in Power Automate and you're doing approvals, that's like probably the number one use case inside of flows here is the approvals. You're asking someone to look at something and make a judgment on whether it's approved or denied or whatever that your outcomes are going to be.
Yes, sir.
So and a lot of times you're on the go, right? So you want to be able to do those things quickly. That's the whole point. So having someone have to crash out maybe on a mobile device to a web browser and launch something is maybe appropriate sometimes, but it also might be appropriate to just say, here's the picture, here's the Excel document, here's the Word document. Please just open it up and approve it or whatever. So simple, but I think super. I think this is going to enhance people's productivity that are involved in these approval flows. I know this was pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Couple things here, and I know you're going to be able to take advantage of this one. I am not. I'm an iOS user. I thought this was pretty nice for your Android people out there. The ability, we've enhanced kind of the ability to do shortcuts in the Power BI app, and this is probably a little bit what you're thinking, and there's some advanced things.
Oh, I really do want that.
Well, I know you'd like this.
I do. I mean, I have some management dashboards where I'm like, I have to go to them all the time.
Yeah.
Like some of the schedule views and stuff, and that'd be pretty sweet.
To your home screen, to your heart's content, sir.
I don't want to do like a million of them, but there's 4 of them. I wouldn't mind just being able to tap instead of tap favorites, tap.
Yeah. Well, and now so we've added the ability to add the shortcuts to the home screen, which is kind of like, okay, cool, table stakes. You're able to do that to any report, dashboard, or app, right? So if you have apps that you have installed inside Power BI, you can do that as well. But also if I think you do the long hold, right? If I remember correctly on Android.
Yes, sir.
And now it'll give you access to your frequently accessed reports without having to launch.
Well, I like that.
That might just solve your problem right there, even.
That's probably enough for me.
This one right here, I absolutely love that we thought about this and this is working, is the ability to do shortcuts to B2B externally shared. So if you have things shared to you from external tenants, you can pin those and do shortcuts.
That's probably even more important, because your internal stuff you can see and have all that stuff, but the external stuff.
Yeah, and it looks like a lot of people, I don't have anything like this, so like from a personal perspective, this isn't something I run into all the time. And this just sounds awful. So instead of saving the shared report emails you receive to access, I mean, that sounds horrible. Like you have to like go access the email. Oh my gosh, this is so much better. So
yeah, and you and I have been back and forth on this iOS to Android iOS to Android journey. Todd and I we tend to take a very specific cloud native storage of all of our stuff so we can make a move, but we have this ongoing debate between the two of us.
I'll be honest. I mean, I'm like everyone else waiting to see what the reviews are like for our upcoming dual screen device.
It is why I am on current hold. I moved to a Note 10 Plus, the big one, and
yeah,
I find it's just a little too big. Like just that much to fall out of the pocket,
okay.
kind of thing. Like I like the screen, but I don't. I would, if I were to go again, I'd probably go with the Note 10. But I like the real estate at times. So if the foldable one has the right form factor, that's going to be my jam for
It's
sure.
going to be exciting. So I'm kind of waiting with what do they say, bated breath, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all
All
right,
right.
here's my last one here. Um, we have went GA and added some enhancements to the app navigation capabilities, which I think were really great and needed enhancements. So one of the main ways to deliver reporting solutions and insight solutions to the business is through Power BI apps, right? So you have a workspace where you're doing your work, you're creating your reports, your dashboards, and you publish your workspace as an app. So to an end user, it's all really just consumable, really user friendly, and you have the ability to create this nav over here on the left. So some of the things that so that's GA, right? So that's been in preview for a little while. That's good news. So some of the things that we've added is collapsibility, right? So you can see here, you saw in the GIF here that you're able to collapse that, which is nice to get more real estate. And then you can show and hide navigation here at the bottom. And just some other little things like before, if there was a hierarchy, you can see here, there's a hierarchy of pages here. You had to like click on one of the headings to expand it and then click inside to open one of the pages. That's kind of lame. So we've made it really easy to open just the first page, which really is more common, I think, from a usability perspective anyway. The ability to close and open these hierarchies with these little, I think, chevrons as well. So just some nice little usability things. I think apps are great. I think a lot of the apps, the reports that I consume internally from Microsoft, some of them I consume straight from workspaces, and some of them I consume straight from apps. But I definitely appreciate the ones that are well thought out with navigation and user documentation and feedback
Yeah,
capability.
I think we have some examples internally that are quite good that I truly enjoy, and others where I'm like, you really could have used some. It's probably me who did it,
Well,
like
no,
code
I mean,
level skilling.
it takes I mean, like to design, I think that last mile is a special thought process that you have to have. And
Yeah.
you have to know the capabilities about this navigation. So, I mean, I think a lot of people are going to come along and do these. Oh, I'd say too, the other thing that we added here is for an app, we added the support link. So this is great. So each app can have its own
Oh,
support link. So that could be to a video. It could be an email. Right?
you
It could
could
be a lot
point
of.
it to Todd Kidda's LinkedIn page.
There you go. There you go. Please don't do that. Unless I built it, then I deserve it. So this is pretty slick. And go check that out. So, and if you don't know about, if you're building reports and dashboards, and you don't know about apps, you should really dig in. So I would read this post as maybe just a getting started. There's some
Hey,
links in here for more information, but you should really kind of learn about that last mile to make the end user experience really nice for your folks.
hey, I got to give a shout out to you actually for you did some work this week around our bot framework stuff and got
Oh,
and that has a correlation into Power BI and all the rest of it.
yeah.
Where
So just I guess to talk about that real quick, if you go out to the Microsoft Health and Life Sciences blog, um, one of the big things that we did a couple weeks back was work with the CDC, used their official guidance to do a COVID assessment, and we've deployed. They announced this week over 1,300 COVID assessment bots
right,
across the globe, which is
and this
amazing.
is designed to let people go through a certified, attested, controlled, medically sound review process, right?
Yes.
Around assessing symptoms as to whether or not you should go in, right?
That's right. So
So
just as an example, real quick, since we're talking about this, Providence Health, they've talked about this publicly. If you go to their COVID page, they have a bot that's just baked right in the coronavirus assessment tool, and it just kind of walks you through. I'm agreeing to their terms. I want to assess my risk for COVID, and everything that I'm clicking here and doing is being logged to application insights inside of Azure. So a lot of people deployed this out over the last few weeks, and there's a mad dash. It takes like a day or so, depending on how much customization you need to do. But then they immediately need to understand how people are doing this. So like, I'm going to answer here that I have symptoms, right? I really don't. And I don't have difficulty breathing, et cetera, et cetera. So it's asking me all these questions. They need to understand like what people are doing, because they're also trying to tie this back to specific folks, specific areas of geography, to really help provide better care. So we just worked to pull some of this information out of App Insights into Power BI, and there's a blog post about it, and it's out on GitHub. So
yeah, I thought that was cool that you actually took the conclusionary model and data behind that, and then built models around the effectiveness of the journeys and the. I mean, it's a interesting, real world use case. We have this tool that's out gathering data. We're gonna run it through, train a model on it, and then visualize it so we can gain insights and change things.
And it was a challenge for me because I hadn't been involved in deploying these bots. I had someone on my team who had deployed several of them, who's at this time I think deployed like 5 in the last couple of weeks. So I had to come up to speed really, really fast and build up these reports. And we delivered a set of reports in about a day and a half, which was pretty cool, I thought. So anyway,
that's that speed. I just thought that was a really cool Power BI story, right? It's one that's in your backyard and you did it and took it from, this telemetry is being gathered from it. But if you think about that kind of conclusion can be drawn from almost any data set that you have with that level of speed. You know what I mean? Like that. We've been talking for a long time about how fast you can get value out of this stuff. And I guess this is just a really relevant example of doing that, but you can do it across, you can look for patterns, for confusion. Like when we released the idea that Power Apps is taking everything, all of its click paths and everything through application insights. So say you were deploying the emergency comm solution, you could wire that in and you could figure out how are people doing it using my emergency comms apps? Are they finding the way to the return to work notifications? Are they not? Like there's all sorts of things you can do with that kind of modeling. And I thought that was just a fascinating example that you put out to the community of what you could do in this one scenario. But think about it more broadly from an architecture pattern is the challenge to the audience.
Yeah, that's a great call out. And thanks for reminding the audience that App Insights integrates with Power Apps as well. I think,
it's amazing.
There's lots of services I could say this about, but App Insights is one of those silent heroes, right?
It really is awesome. We should show people, we should wire one up and show it to people. I think people, when they see it, that would really make it light up.
I'm down with that because I think, to your point, I think that it can be maybe because it's an Azure thing, immediately it might, for people that are citizen developers or not Azure people, it might say, well, I'm immediately excluded, like it's too difficult, it's a developer thing. It's really not. So you can get a lot of value out of it. So yeah, I think that's a great idea, Doug. Well, let's do that.
We can wire one of those up over in OneMTC and see what we can get.
Yeah, cool, man.
Awesome. All right. Great. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully the YouTube platform, I haven't even gone back to an audio. We did one audio confidence test yesterday, so hopefully the viewers out there.
I did check when you were talking. I did check, and they confirmed that they could hear us, and we sounded great.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, so
because our quality assurance work on this was about 90 minutes of Todd and I just messing around. So I'm glad it went well. Yeah. All right. Thanks to everybody for watching. Hope everybody have a great and safe weekend wherever you are. If you're celebrating it, happy Easter. If you're not, happy spring. Hopefully it's good weather, and it's going to be snowing here like 3 or 4 inches this weekend. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, it's Minnesota. It's fall, spring. It was beautiful this week, and now we're just going to get hammered. Maybe they're wrong. Who knows? But it's who cares? I'll be outside anyway. So.
Well, I just really hope everyone's staying healthy and trying to make the best of the situation. I've been able to play hoops and go on walks with my kids more often now that I'm home, which has been nice.
Yep.
And trying to get the silver lining out of it. So hopefully everyone's staying well. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, roger that. All right, Mr. Kidda, you can kill our broadcast and take us non-live. Everyone take care.
All right, I will do that.